or exactly 4 then, for you to say, well, it's been a year. Let's go back to what happened yesterday. Well, if you look at what APRA essentially set as the monthly prices for fuel, only 2 sides have got a reprieve. They've got only diesel and kerosene revised. If you walked into your petrol station this morning, then you do know that you got your diesel 2 shillings off, yeah, and a kerosene. But for petrol, it's still the same price, 217 to be exact. So the fears about how the Israel and Hamas war was sort of feared to push this to 300 has cooled down, and whether this is a proper revision vis-a-vis what our neighbors in the EA region are buying and selling their product at is a conversation that we're going to talk about this morning. Well, other issues that are coming up is finally Jerry is spoken, and if you jump straight into your standard this morning, she's talking about her 120-hour ordeal with kidnappers in quotes, right? And this is a quote: "Who is fooling whom?" And Jerry, the woman at the center of the 17 billion oil import dispute, says she was held captive in a windowless house for 120 hours and given the option of either surrendering the diesel or facing death, even as other documents emerged, casting more doubts on the real ownership of the fuel import lord. All right, read that story on page 2 of the Standard this morning. And if you look as well on the bigger headlines that the Standard is talking about this morning, is how the weakening shilling is now pushing up the cost of loans. That is on page 7 of the Standard. And there is also the long search for police uniform to lift its image. To believe that different police uniform is gonna lift their image. That's a special report covered on pages 8 and 9 of the Standard. Again, if you wake up this morning, then you're going to also look at what the nation is talking about in regards national news. The same story of Anna and Jerry, the lady now at the center of the oil import saga, which is rated at 17 billion shillings. She's talking about her particular ordeal at the hands of kidnappers. Now she's saying first behind the 17 billion shillings fell, and this is a quote from the Daily Nation this morning. They said, "I will never see my children again if I dared to provide false information. I assured them that my statement at the DCI was truthful. The consignment is mine. I imported it from Europe." That is Miss Anna Jerry Joroge. We look at the tons of diesel in dispute. It is a 93,460 metric tons. Read that particular story then on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Is story that we're going to talk about this morning on how Kindiki has essentially gone deeper than to revise fees for IDs and passports again after an uproar last week. They've been revised. We're going to talk about them this morning and see exactly where we are. There's also that story, you're going to read it on page 6. There's also a story of now Murkomen is speaking, saying, "I blame Jubilee for leaking roofs at JKIA." That particular story covered on pages 5. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has blamed the leaking roofs at JKIA on neglect and poor workmanship by contractors during the previous regime. Those are the top stories, by the way, that you're going to read at this morning. This is a scandal that is been covered on page 10 on how Kenya paid 2 billion for loans it didn't get. That is according to the Controller of Budget, Ms. Margaret Nyakango. All right, so once you then wake up this morning, you can grab yourself a daily of your liking, and then after that, You can also cross over to www.lookuptv.co.ke. Majority of those stories are covered right there. Well, it's a good thing that then we do have the two Erics in the building this morning. Now, majority of these stories are the ones that are going to take center stage. Issues around the leaking grooves at JKIA and the faces behind the 17 billion shillings fall. And there's a tendency then, and Kenyans have been talking about how indeed kidnappings or alleged kidnappings in this government are the ones that have really taken center stage. And the bigger story about the revising of service charges at the migration department. That's exactly what we're going to talk about this morning. It's a good thing, Eric Mungai. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, Simba. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to have you around.
I am happy. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I keep saying Lookuptv is where Kenyan citizens must look up for the latest news and for opinions that are not biased, very objective. And also, I must say, in these hard economic times, it's always a pleasure when we enjoy a cup of coffee together with the viewers who are watching us. It's been an eventful week so far. Yesterday we were on tenterhooks. Everyone was waiting to see what EPRA would do. In fact, at some point, Ragalo texted me he's very disappointed. He was expecting the cost to go up. So I think it's
like
Ragalo.
It's lying.
Ragalo, you're the problem in this country.
I did not.
You're like, wake up your tattoo. You're like that guy who gets onto the road and doesn't meet traffic. Is like,
it's a pleasure.
That's it. Happy to have you around, Ragalo. How are you doing, man?
I'm well.
Yes.
I am quite disappointed that the petrol and kerosene and diesel didn't go up.
Yeah.
Because
also, the only thing you missed is texting you.
why am I disappointed? First of all, I want to say hi to all our viewers and to tell them that we are happy we are Kenyans and we are happy we can see the game going around. Musical chairs every day. I want to recognize the brilliance of one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. There's those saying that goes down there, I'd rather have someone who drinks alcohol than a pastor or the pulpit, because the guy who is drinking alcohol looks more brighter sometime than the pastor who holds the Bible daily. Why am I saying that? Uhuru Kenyatta brought subsidy. And of course, those guys who go to church had intercession from God that subsidy was wrong. And they said God had sent them to save Kenya from subsidy. Woe to Kenya that God who sent them to save us from subsidy, actually, I don't believe is the real God, because now we are deep in problems. And yesterday, they took us back to the brilliant Uhuru Kenyatta subsidy. Oh, brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta. Hail you. Because those people who thought you were stupid and you were not thinking are doing the same things that were wrong, that you did which were wrong. Which one? Uhuru did a wrong by taking Kenya Meat Commission to the Defense Forces. And I remember it was said that it is against the law. But today, it is right on the law to take back KMC to Defense Forces. Brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta. Another brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta is subsidy on petrol fuel and all the other that comes with it. And they removed it. They said it is not sustainable. But do you know yesterday, super petrol was supposed to go up by 12 bob. But the government has decided to give it subsidy of the same 12 bob, so it remains constant. Brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta. Diesel was to go up by 19.82 Kenya shillings, but the government had to buy subsidy of the same, so it remained the same. Kerosene was to go up by 3 shillings and 64 cents. But the brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta reigned in UDA, and they had to buy 3.64 shillings of subsidy to remain the same. So the question is, was Uhuru Kenyatta stupid? Were they too brilliant that today they realize the stupid man was right? A madman in the market tells you, there is a thief coming to your house.
Yes.
Don't look at the madman and throw a stone on the madman. He could be telling you the truth. The brilliance of Uhuru Kenyatta told us, we will burn in this economy that is going to face us with this UDA. We said, wewe unatuletea baba. Right now, that's what I'm saying. I am happy. People are burning in this thing. And now everything that Uhuru said that was wrong is right today. So KMC was to go back to the armed forces. I even wonder, what brilliance was Uhuru Kenyatta? Do you know Uhuru Kenyatta is really brilliant? That's why he went to school in America. And that's why he did economics and political science. But those people who think they were brilliant, they didn't do economics and the political science. We know what they studied. So, bro, I did call you. I did text you.
I'm sipping on this coffee deliberately.
Sips coffee.
Yeah, sips coffee.
Uhuru Kenyatta is brilliant.
Here's the thing. Okay, let's talk about it then. Mungai, I just want us to open this conversation like this. And maybe we might be reading too much into how EPRA has reacted. I want to take you to a couple of headlines that we saw last week when members of parliament within UDA told the president, vitu kwa ground, ay, bwana, tunaenda kuongea hivi, watu wanasema hapana, amwezi tuongelesha hapa, bei ya maisha ni ghali. Before that, there's a statement that the president gave us last week. And if you remember, he said, my hands are tied. On the cost of fuel in this country, my hands are tied. So what we expected, Mr. Mungai, is that those prices that Wagalo was giving you this morning would have been the exact prices that we would have been waking up to after EPRA essentially reviewed the monthly prices. But we did not. Mungai, we did not. In a nutshell, the president's hands were not tied. Because when you say that my hands are tied on the cost of fuel in this country, and then when an EPRA comes in and says, well, the actual prices is not exactly what you're buying this fuel at, we've essentially gone down and subsidized diesel, petrol, and kerosene, it means that his hands were not tied. And when you read that particular statement from UDA, members of parliament were telling the president, maybe it's time you reintroduce subsidies, then it starts to make sense that when there is will, it would have done it a long time ago, that the subsidies would have been there since time immemorial up to now. That is only now when he's already seen what is happening on the ground. Ashambe kwa ground, watu wataki, watu wanaongea, watu wanalia. He comes in and says, well, kind of look for a way to introduce subsidies. Is this a purely economic move or a political move, Mr. Mungai?
Thank you, Simba. One of the things I find very interesting is that the president is doomed if he does, he is doomed if he doesn't. I hear yesterday a majority of the bloggers and the media had prepared, two headlines. One for a spike in terms of petrol prices. There was nothing in terms of decline, and one for stabilization. And I get interested. It's very interesting when you listen to conversations in this country, because as I said in my opening statement yesterday, including the Senate Majority Leader was on tenterhooks. He was actually saying EPRA is punishing us by delaying the announcement of prices. And if you recall last time, we still had the same anticipation as a country. And it appears that the 14th of every month is initially we would wait for payday as Kenyans. You wait for the day you get paid. But it appears now 14th is a very important date in the calendar of Kenyans.
Yes.
We the whole country,
on standby.
and I mean, I mean, even 14th now is more apprehensive than the Belmas.
I will tell you that.
We need a choir. We need a choir for 14th.
And that's why he said that we are supposed to put a legislation for the date 14. So tunaambiwa mambo mapema.
Yes.
Ngojea hivyo.
So, and you can imagine why, because fuel is a driver of the economy. And it more or less affects everything else. But let me say this, Simba. One, we are a country that imports everything that we use. And I was telling someone the other day, you look at yourself today the way you are dressed. 80% of everything you're wearing comes from abroad. It is bought on the dollar. 80% of, in fact, it could be 100%. The only thing that could belong to this country is maybe yourself. But everything else you're wearing, we have imported from other countries. And why is that important? It is important because then that would mean that we use most of our resources to get basic stuff from outside, including the fuel that we are buying. Now, Kenya does not produce any fuel. You know, sometimes there is room for political debate, and there is equally room for us to tell Kenyans the truth. And what is this truth? The truth is that so long as we are going to continue importing fuel, and so long as we'll continue importing refined petroleum products, we will always import costs from other countries. And I always say this, our collective historical ineptitude cannot be corrected in 1 year. And what do I mean? We had a refinery that used to work in Mombasa.
Yes.
Right now, if you get crude oil and refine for yourself, costs are likely to come down. But what did we do as Kenyans and as politicians? We ran down the facility. The facility is no longer working. And therefore, so long as we continue importing refined products, we will always import inflated costs. Now, that is not to say that sometimes there isn't room for manipulation. There could be room for manipulation. But you can only manipulate to a certain extent. If you import at X, you can only manipulate above X. So that means you still have to contend with the baseline. And therefore, I would ask Kenyans, there is something government introduced, stabilization program. And stabilization is different from subsidy. And I'll explain how. You see, in subsidy, there is always room for theft, because you are paid after selling. So what that means is that Simba will say, I have sold 200,000 liters of fuel. You know, government has no way of verifying whether that's actually true or not. And that is what you will claim as subsidy from government. Now, in stabilization, you stabilize from source. You say, okay, we are importing oil at X. And remember, we have G to G. So at X, what the OMCs will buy, you stabilize at the source of purchase. Okay? So that means that the cost is likely, the cost is likely to be passed on to the buyer, because fuel is a regulated product. And I hope we'll also get time to discuss about Anne and her billions.
Yeah, of course.
And why her story is also a facade.
Yes.
But we'll discuss that.
Yes.
So it is therefore to say that let us, Kenyans, let's brace ourselves for even harder economic times.
Yes.
And one thing I love about Mudavadi, you know, Mudavadi is a quiet man and he speaks softly. But Mudavadi said we are in this for the next 3 years. And I want to tell Kenyans, especially when I see the dalliance between the ministers, the cabinet secretaries, economic advisors, and IMF, I know we are in this for the long haul.
Yes.
Because it appears that the prescription IMF has given us as Kenyans, we are taking it hook, line, and sinker. We are taking the prescription. In fact, sometimes I feel even our own policymakers are overzealous. Where IMF has prescribed 1 times 3, we are taking 1 times 4.
Ragalo, can you allow me not to ask you this question? Because Ngai has skillfully avoided the question that I asked him this morning. You had that?
Yes, he
did. You had that?
Yes, he did.
I didn't want to interrupt him, because he's completely run away from the question, Ragalo. I'm like, he's going to come back and answer it. He's going to come back and answer it. it's spoken about Mudavadi. Mudavadi was never in my question.
Yes.
It's like, no, it was just a question about the president.
No, Mudavadi is part of government. Why are you? He's the senior supervisor.
Fine, Mungai. But he was never part of that discussion.
He is.
Ragalo, would you answer him the question?
And Ragalo, tell people the truth. Don't lie.
I'm actually thinking deeper
That's
than
it.
even telling people the truth.
Yeah.
I have something troubling me.
Yes.
The fuel subsidy that we've gotten, is really a subsidy? Could it be Anne's fuel is what has been brought in now?
No.
I'm just asking.
Ragalo,
I'm just thinking.
Ragalo,
you know, let's it's
Okay.
you to think. You see, that's why you're called an analyst. You need to think beyond. I'm just thinking.
Not beat the bush.
Now, the question is here.
Yes.
How much worth is Anne to bring fuel worth 17 billion? How long will it take a human being in Kenya to have a 1 billion Kenya shilling as his worth? Normally without stealing. Normally. Because many billionaires we have in Kenya, I'm saying many,
Yes.
they're not billionaires. They're just thieves. So how long can it take a real man or human, I'm saying man including a woman, to have a 1 billion? So if Anne brought us 17 billion worth of fuel, how much is her worth? She should be worth more than even Akina Kenyatta's who lead by net worth in Kenya. Then the question begs here, why was the fuel not cleared in Mombasa?
Yes.
Was it by mistake that it was coming to Mombasa? Was someone aware or not aware? I don't know, but it's stories there. Could it be we are jumping G to G, bringing fuel, then claiming, oh, hii fuel imekuja kwa barabara mbaya, just so that it doesn't show to G that we are jumping their contract, because we will pay dearly, because going against a contract, you have to pay, because most contracts are pegged on treasury bonds. Okay? So now, if the Anne's fuel came by mistake, then by mistake still it's offloaded in Mombasa, then that means the fuel will be cheaper. Because when I read the papers, Anne's fuel was much cheaper. So now the question is, could it be Anne's fuel was really not really Anne's fuel? And if Anne was really taken to Karura the way she's saying,
yes,
mtu amepigwa anaongeaga kama radio mpya hivyo. Nataka uongee hivyo, umegongwa, umeonyongwa, ama whatever it is, na sasa uko kwa TV unasema, I was done this. Do you think, do you even have an energy? Do you know how fearful you will become? Even to talk on TV. So now, yes, Anne talks on TV, skillfully and openly the way it was done to her. Is it really true? Are we being played a match here? Could it be the fuel ya Anne ndio tutaweka kwa magari zetu? If ni ya Anne. Now the Anne story is now coming even, it is just a revelation in my mind come from, we are also biblical people, from Angel Gabriel. Could it be the Anne's fuel not really a subsidy, but a cheaper fuel has come in minus G to G just to kufanya hii mambo iende mzuri, hii mambo ipoe, hii mambo ikuwe mzuri kabla turudi kwa ile ngori zetu? Is it? Because if Anne's fuel is not okay, then why was it offloaded? To who and to where?
Yes.
Then if at all that is it true, then what if Anne goes to international courts and claim her property? How much will we pay her? You remember Jacob Juma went to court and we paid her in trillions. I mean, we paid Jacob Juma in trillion. May his soul rest in peace. Because of some stone in Kilifi. What if Anne goes to court? How much is 17 billion when taken to court? Na unajua sasa ni kama amenyang'anywa nini? Na ni kweli amenyang'anywa? Now, these questions are too hard for me to ask and for myself.
Yes.
Then, Miami, I'm thinking,
yes,
we don't have a subsidy.
Yes.
We have fuel that came in.
Oh, Ragala, I want you to hold your thought right there. I'm not done with you. I want you to hold your thought right there. Because that particular conversation is what we're going to come back with. And then probably you can help Mungai also answer that. You can answer that. You can answer.
What was
of
the
course,
question?
definitely. The question I asked him was this. I mean, the president said his hands are tied before this particular review. CS, Treasury, National Planning was saying, well, we might see 300. And we're praying it doesn't get there. But then all of a sudden, we have a stabilization fund.
It's not all of a sudden. It's
Just
been there.
Oh, it's been there.
It's been there.
It's all of a sudden in the sense of it's a change of tone, Mungai. All right. I want us to take a tiny breather. Once we come back, you still have that time, and then probably answer Mr. Mungai's question. Once we come back right here on the Morning Drifts, you can join us online and look up TV across all your social media platforms. Top on the conversations that we're getting into this morning is the now reviews of the services at the Immigration Department. It's now official that the fees for IDs and passports have been revised by Kithure Kindiki or by the Ministry of Interior. We're going to talk about that morning, plus other issues as pertaining the cost of living in the country. What is this fuel price review? Where did this money come from? Probably we'll get an answer from Mr. Mungai once we come back right here on the Morning Drift.
Nestled in the quiet and serene neighborhood of Makutano, just 2.8 kilometers from the Tarmac Road lies Alpha Meadows. This is a controlled gated community where you can build your city, home, or purchase for investment purposes. If you are looking for a place to call home, full of peace and quiet with magnificent views, then Alpha Meadows is that place. To book a plot, call 0723 979797 or visit us on 4th Avenue Towers along 4th Ngong Avenue off Bishop Road. Alpha Meadows is a product of Fusion Estates. Fusion Estates, your land ownership partner.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on the Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
And Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. This is the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. Let's talk about that particular issue then. Just before we went on break, Ragaldo was trying to answer that particular question of this latest review of fuel prices in the country. And probably now, Ragaldo, you can answer that question as why we've had a change of heart from the government to come in and stabilize the price of fuel in the country at a time when they had essentially forecast runaway prices? 3 minutes and then we give it to Mungai.
Brother, Raila Odinga had a press, not really a press, he had a meeting at his offices.
Yes.
And he was giving opinion on what government have done wrong.
Yes.
And what they can do to correct the wrongs. And I remember one of the things he said is stabilization. We have to stabilize our economy by one, ensuring the poor people get funds, returning what was being done before.
Yes.
Because how these people came in, they came and killed everything that was done before. And I've given you a good example. They came, they said, Kenya Meat Commission, irudi kwa wananchi. All of a sudden, there were no preparation on how it will go back and how the management of KMC is going to happen. So initially when it was on this side, meat was coming, meat was being sold. And you could go to KMC depot in Kiambu Road na ubuy nyama. I don't know if Eric, you've gone there and buy nyama. Then all of a sudden, even that depot, nyama ilianza kukosekana. So what happened? The sales ikaanza kupungua, then government ikaanza kulose. So these things, then they saw the mistake and returned the KMC back to the army. Well, they said everything they said. Oh, Uhuru amepeana nini ni kwa wanajeshi, amenyang'anya wananchi. You know, all that's politics. You remember the other politics was Uhuru anajenga hoteli Uhuru Park. I'm still waiting for that hotel ya Uhuru Park. Kwani ijawahi isha? It was supposed to be a 4-star hotel in Uhuru Park. But we can see what Uhuru did in Uhuru Park. But initially it was a hotel which was supposed to be owned by the Kenyattas. You see how politics destroys. Sometimes, why is the government suffering? The lies they told to people, coming to reality to change them is hard. Why is my hand tied? My hand tied is because you can't manage the dollar. Everything you are doing is on the dollar. You told us the dollar is going to be back at 119, 120. The dollar today is 154.43. Actually, this week, 154, we entered. I actually tweeted yesterday and said, we are waiting you at 160. So we are not surprised if the dollar goes 160. So everything is pegged on the dollar. Secondly, international communication. The more we are fighting the dollar, that you want to be free from the dollar, the more the Kenyan shilling hurts on the dollar. Let me tell you, it's very easy. We are going to come out of the dollar hegemony, and they're going to have Kenyan shilling and other African currency doing business. So you can use Kenyan shilling in Tanzania and buy mandazi and come back. I remember those talks. Then you think the dollar is going to sit pretty, waiting you to do that. So now the dollar starts hurting us because, one, communication, two, how we handled our economy. We could have done a transition nicely. The transition of Kibaki to Uhuru. You could not see the difference on money differences because the transition was smooth. This transition was not smooth. It came with people thinking we are more brilliant than others. Yeah. Then you destroy the structures others did, you want to put new structures. And those structures were running the economy.
Yes.
So now we went down. Your hands are not tied. Your hands are actually free. Return the structures as they were. Then let's remove pilferages. The economy will stabilize. Let's stop duplicating what? Jobs. How is duplicating jobs? How do you want a shilling to stabilize when trees are being planted by ministers in different counties, adopt a county, while those counties, there are structures of environment, Ministry of Land, all Ministry of Education, because all these ministries, they come together in different counties under the governor and MCAs, trees will be planted. I'll give a true example. Ruiru Biashara Ward. I'm not fighting, but I'm just saying, I expected a tree planting event in a ward.
Yes.
I didn't see. Eric can say, we are now politicking, we are now trying to help the government function. I wonder where Eric comes from, Gatongora, if really he saw tree planting ceremony, like watu wameshikana wanapanda miti. There was no good mobilization. I don't know what the hurry was for. And using of money, too much money unnecessarily. Why do we get helicopters for ministers to hover around to plant trees? How much is a helicopter in a day times over 20 helicopters? If we used 1 billion shillings in planting trees, how well could we have used that 1 billion? Is that money lost? It is. How is it going to inject to economy? Zero.
Yes.
So how do we get it back? By negative. Is the economy growing? No. Your hands are not tied. We are duplicating functions and they are doing bad. Another function, community health workers, launched by the president. Whose function is that? Siaya Governor Orengo launched his. So why don't we do the functions as they are? Tree planting and community health, I'm giving 2 examples alone, I won't give more, are devolved function. Your work as a national is to give command. We are going to do this. Why should tree planting day be a national day? Actually, national day is better. Why should it be a holiday? What does a holiday mean? A holiday mean is a free day to relax. That's why they are called holiday. Baba would give us holiday, not to do anything, to sit home. When you tell people today is a holiday, Madaraka Day,
yes,
it's not to do nothing, it's to sit home because it's a day, it's a national day. But it should have been the way Moi said. And that's why trees were not planted as much, because it is a holiday. It should have been a national tree planting day. Watu waende kwenye wanafanya kazi. Kama unafanya kazi, towel industry, spinners and spinners, that company spinners and spinners inastahili kuwa ilinunua miti, wafanyikazi wapewe miti, wataonyeshwa na chief mahali watapanda miti hiyo siku. Eric, I don't know whether you're saying what I'm saying. Mtu anafanya kazi Safaricom, wangeenda kazi Safaricom, wakifika Safaricom wanapata miti Safaricom imenunua. Safaricom imepewa nini? Imepewa na serikali arboretum. Wafanyikazi wote wangejipata wapi? Arboretum. It should not have been a holiday. I don't know how we think. You know, I think they are brilliant because they said that other government people were just sleeping and taking alcohol. I think they are brilliant, but their brilliance, it should not have been a holiday. When you give people holiday, they go and sit. It should have been a national tree planting day, but that day is counted as a work day. How? Kila mtu ende kwake kwa kazi, wenye wako shule waende shule. Nairobi University that day, miti kwa Nairobi University. Nairobi University imepewa wapi? Chiromo, huko Chiromo kwa hiyo kichaka ya Chiromo University. Wapande huko ndani. But what did I see? I saw a holiday. Who will plant tree on a holiday? People will sit home and do their chores. So that's why it was a failure to me. If we use that, then how do you say your hand is tied while you're using money that is not beneficial to the economy of Kenya? So prudence is all that I'm requiring from this government.
Yes.
If we do prudence, because now my question was, why was Ababu in Kilifi planting trees? Why would he go to Kilifi? And the Kilifi minister who comes from Kilifi is where? Is in Bungoma. When I did research was said, community involvement. If a minister comes from the coast, take her back to the coast. She will talk to them Kidigo, Ki whatever language. People will listen to her as their own and they will work together. But when you bring her, for example, to Bungoma, I'll go there to see, undi anaitangwa Aisha Jumwa. But I'll not go there to plant trees because really, I don't know whether you're getting me. Community involvement is community involvement. But when you do this, and then someone was actually cutting across. Kuna mtu alitoka Pandei, akavuka na helicopter to coast. I mean, why were we doing that? That's why a tree planting day was a flop. It was not as much, and that's why it's not even taking so much of newspaper or headlines anywhere. Even Facebook, you'd see Facebook and Twitter, it was not as much. If you find it, it's a small cutting. Yes. But if it was a national tree planting day, James Finley, Naivasha, tunapanda miti, wangepanda Naivasha, ingepando jameni, lakini hii tuligufu. So if we say hands are tied, yes, we are not tied. Mm-hmm. It's not our hands are tied. Our prudence of wanting to do things the right way is what is tied.
I hope you'll give me as much time.
Of course,
as you've given Ragalo.
And probably, as you start, because I know you have two issues that you're going to look into. Number one, Mr. Mungai, could you attempt this time around to answer that first question? Because all the way up to that review, the only communication that we got from the minister, from the CS, National Planning and Treasury, is, well, we might see 300. We hope he doesn't get that. The president came in and said, on this issue of the cost of fuel, my hands are tied. Turns out, his hands were not essentially tied. We have a stabilization drive within that particular sector. Could you start with that? Is it a political move? Because somebody somewhere feared, if you dare cross this line, then that's it for you and us.
Okay, first is to say it's heavy. It's difficult to agree with Ragalo. Yes. But on the issue of tree planting, I agree that we could have done better.
There's a handshake.
but not the bubble. This is not an eating handshake. This is a handshake of ideas. But it's to say that I agree the National Tree Growing Day could have been done better. As I said when you were starting, these are IMF's prescriptions. Yes. And sometimes I feel we are overzealous in the way we implement them. But let me move away from that and say this on the issue of fuel. First and foremost, there are two things here. One is what you've asked, and then secondly is what is gracing our headlines today. Still on fuel, the debacle that is Anne Jerry Njoroge. And I want to start with that of Anne Jerry and say that, one, anytime you think or imagine that security officers could be involved in kidnapping, like we saw in the previous regime, it sends chills down my spine. And I must say, even the thought of it, not leave alone the action, even the thought that a security officer can kidnap an ordinary Kenyan, it sends chills down my spine, because then you know you're sort of living in a banana republic. Yes. And therefore, those allegations must be taken seriously, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations must go to the root of that matter, especially on business disputes. You know, if we are saying that, there are some instances where you could say maybe, but, on business disputes, that an ordinary Kenyan can disappear because we have a trade dispute. Mm-hmm. I think DCI must get to the bottom of that particular matter. Yes. And that is important to point out, because we want to live in a country where we could do trade and we can have disputes. Yes. But I am assured that the state will protect my life.
Does it worry you that, and it's a good thing that you're on that, so let's talk about it because you've mentioned it. Yes. Does it worry you that we've seen these particular cases appear in this particular government more than...
No, what I would say is this. I cannot say with certainty whether it is true or not. Yes. What I am pointing out is that it is unthinkable and unimaginable that under the 2010 Constitution, we can have security officers allegedly kidnap someone on a trade dispute. And I am saying, and I want to be on record, that must never happen. Yes. Even the mere thought that someone can kidnap you because I disagree with Ragalo, someone kidnaps me. Yes. I mean, that that is unthinkable. It must never happen, and we must not go back to the ways of the former or the previous regime.
No, sir.
But having said that, I must call out Anne Njeri as a fraud for what she is. She's a big fraud. And I'll tell you why, who is Anne and why Anne is a fraud. Number one, let us look at the figure in dispute, 17 billion worth of fuel. In this current regime, we have a shortage of dollar. Okay? Now, if you convert 17 billion Kenya shillings into dollar, you are unlikely, and the reason why government got into government-to-government framework was because we were having a run on the dollar, where under the OTS system, open tender system, if an OMC was given a tender, they would be going all over the banks looking for dollar. And that was creating some kind of pressure on the dollar. And government decided to alleviate that, not to necessarily, it's just temporary, and do that 6 months renewable under the government-to-government deal. So getting an equivalent of 17 billion Kenya shillings in dollar in Kenyan banks today is impractical and is almost impossible. In fact, I tell you, Simba, if she went to a local bank to look for 17 billion Kenya shillings, it would raise eyebrows not just with the CBK, but also with the Financial Reporting Center, which we have in Kenya, okay? Secondly, she's saying that the fuel belongs to her. Maybe yes, maybe not, but I'll tell you why that's a fraud also. When you import fuel under a credit line, and the bank will give you letters of credit. Now, against letters of credit, you will get a bill of lading from the supplier.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when you get a bill of lading, the bank will only pay the supplier, and I want you to get this very clearly, once against documents. So when the ship docks, and an SGS report is done, and a deep test verifies that the fuel subscribes to the Kenyan standards of fuel, is only when the bank will pay. So that means there should even be no dispute of who the fuel belongs to, because one, the bill of lading is clear. Okay. Second, from where you got lines from your bank, the bank knows that this is your fuel. Lastly, why Anne Njeri is a fraud, she says she started this business in 2009. Sometimes Kenyans, because of politics, we are treated to a lot of charade and gimmicks that we get lost in the bigger picture. She says she started business of fuel in 2009.
How old was she?
Now, I'm even not worried about how old she was. But she says in her own statement, which is very peculiar, after being kidnapped for a whole week, you can talk like a tape recorder. She says that the ministry informed her that she must get licenses in order for her to trade in fuel. That was last week. Now, we all know, those of us who have traded in fuel, you cannot trade in fuel in Kenya without an EPRA license.
That's true.
Either as an OMC, as an exporter, or a retailer. You must get licensing from EPRA. Now, Simba, how do you commit 17 billion Kenya shillings? Which bank will give you letters of credit? Which bank will give you a facility of 17 billion Kenya shillings without trading license from EPRA? There is no bank that will do that. In fact, when you go to a bank and you want to open an account to trade in fuel, the first thing they ask you is an EPRA license. So Madam says she has committed 17 billion Kenya shillings. And sometimes we say 17 billion, we imagine it's ugali. 17 billion is a lot of money, Ragalo. Counties' annual budget, there are counties that don't get to 17 billion. So it's a lot of money. So Anne Njeri, the fraudster, goes and invests 17 billion, knowing very well she doesn't have a license. Now, the question is this that Kenyans should get answers. Who is sponsoring Anne Njeri? Why is she on our headlines? What is she supposed to achieve?
Yes.
Who is this that is sponsoring her headlines to be on? And Nation, by the way, on one of her numbers that calls her Anne Dubai. It doesn't even say she does fuel. The one of the numbers says Anne Dubai. That is the only relationship between her and Dubai and the fuel. And therefore it is to say, Kenyans, let us not be gullible. Let us not be taken round in circles on someone imported cheap fuel, or Anne Njeri Njoroge should be called out for what she is.
Yes.
A fraudster. A common 21st century fraudster.
Yes.
Period.
Is it not then her not to be called out, but for the person who's sponsoring her to be called out, Mr. Mungai?
And that's my question. Yes, and that's my question.
Yes.
Who exactly is sponsoring Anne Njeri Njoroge?
Yes.
Could it be Azimio? Because remember, because remember, Baba has promised a dossier next week on this issue of fuel. So it could be that Anne Njeri Njoroge is a precursor to hoodwink Kenyans that her fuel was cheaper, and so government has gotten into some shady deal. We could have gotten cheaper fuel. That is the only explanation, that Anne Njeri Njoroge is sponsored by Azimio. For political purposes. Yes, that's the only logical, and because you know, and it's not new. Azimio has been proven to undertake such ventures. So when I see her in the headlines, and when I know for sure who sponsors headlines in this nation, it reads and smells Azimio.
Here's the thing, Bagalo, please. But just as we way into this particular question, there are two issues that are coming up here. And I don't know, maybe you can indulge us just to understand better, that there was a shocking video of Wan Rai that emerged when King Charles III was in the country, of him welcoming him into the country. You saw that video, and the president was right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, it's another case as well. Somebody was kidnapped, allegedly, and then they serviced back and everything is okay. All right, there's another case as well. See, Anne Njeri allegedly disappeared for 4 days. All right, questioned, and I want to read for you this quote by the Daily Nation. Said that they said, "I will never see my children again if I dared to provide false information. I assured them that my statement at the DCI was truthful. The consignment is mine. I imported it from Europe." All right, further investigations into Anne.
Europe, where?
Yeah.
Oil from Europe.
That's it. I'm also wondering, further investigations from that came up, essentially in our dealings with Kenya, Uganda, Dubai, Russia, and Israel. All right? But the Daily Nation said that every time we tried to investigate and look at the papers, they had more questions than answers. Here's the thing. Can we look at these two issues independently and say that indeed, in this particular government, kidnappings are a thing that happens whenever there's a business dispute? One.
Yes.
And number two, Bagalo, yesterday in this studio, I asked the gentlemen who were here. There were over 11 guys in the studio, and they were from both sides, but all of them agreed on one thing: that indeed there's an issue in this government that's getting people talking is on the cost of living, Ragalo. In fact, they all agreed. Nobody was disputing the other. I was saying, well, we agree. We agree. And somebody somewhere needs to do something about this particular issue. If indeed we're going to go by that headline that we saw last week, that some UDA members of parliament were telling the president, you got to introduce the subsidy because the ground is getting volatile. Can we say then that indeed RUTO himself has read the ground, is becoming unpopular by the day because of this particular issue for the cost of living? So whether he liked it or not, whether Kenyans liked it or not, he had to act, make a political move. This is all about politics as opposed to what would be true economy policies. Ragala, two issues.
Very tough issues. We saw Rai some time ago getting kidnapped live on TV.
No, sir.
The next day, Rai relinquished Mumias. There's this lady, Anne, I don't understand her. She's too young to have such money. She's too young.
Ragala, don't say she's too young to have money.
She's too young to have, not to have money, to have such money.
To have such money?
Yes.
I mean, Ragala, you might not know.
Because if you can bring petroleum, refined petroleum, worth 17 billion. How much change do you have in your your reserve. Because I don't want to call it an account. Because you can have a reserve anyway, even in your own house. How much change do you have?
That's a lot of money.
Now the question is, no one is telling us where the oil came from, the petroleum. Mara from Turkmenistan. And do you know why they're using that country? It's because it's one country that you can never get any information. It is as close-knit as South Korea, as North Korea. It's a country where even owning a black car some years ago was against the law. It is a country that things are really tough. So, you can never get information from that country. What I'm telling you is true. You can Google and read about that country. It's a country where it's information. Yes. You see the way we read newspaper here. Yes. You can never find anything.
Yes.
So it is so closely knit, and for them to use that country, they know very well you can never get any information about Turkmenistan. You can't. So it's like telling you, we got this oil from North Korea, so you go get information then. Who will talk to you even? That's why it's easy to use a country like that. But if you say, I got oil from UAE, you'll get an answer in 10 minutes. We'll give you information UAE where and how and why you're lying. So we'll take it as true, the oil came from Turkmenistan, because it's a country where you can't get information. It's more neat, it's more closely knit, locked of information than North Korea. At least North Korea leaks. Turkmenistan does not leak at all. $110.8 million is equivalent to 17 billion shillings.
Yes.
Oh God, that's money. What is the reserve of Kenya in dollars? In 2022, Kenyan reserve on dollars was 8-point-something billion. It has gone down this year to around 7.7 to 7.9, somewhere there, billion dollars, which means we've lost. One, investors have left the country in droves, and many other things that have happened. That's why you see the dollar issue in Kenya is hurting, because Kenya reserve, you can check, has gone down by some amount. We were at 8, we are now at 7-point-something. Mm-hmm. So how do we survive this? One way of surviving this, your question is right. I told you more, everything is social. How do you enter an airport that is leaking roofs? It's raining and people are being rained on. Laptop, computers there, immigration. People will not come because they don't know whether that storm is even going to break down that place. So they'll hold mvua ishe Kenya tukuje, because where we are going to pass, it's literally going to be a havoc.
Also tell Kenyans who constructed that airport.
Issue.
We're actually going to talk about that.
It's okay. Who constructed the airport? Okay, it was constructed.
Yeah.
Brother, who constructed the studio we are in?
No.
I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
So if it leaks today, do you want to tell me the person who constructed did the wrong 2 years down the line? If it was constructed more than 2 years ago, because it was not constructed now, did we have rains in 2 years or 3 years ago?
We did not have El Nino.
We are not having El Nino. We were there alive and brother, in 1997, I was in school.
But the airport was not leaking then.
I saw El Nino in 1997.
Yes.
What we are having is high rainfall, not El Nino. If we talk of El Nino, and let's be honest with each other, because we're using names that are not supposed to be used. My brother knows well. El Nino is rain day and night, storm, mafuriko, what we call flood, and many other things. Surely, this above average rainfall is El Nino. If we are talking about El Nino, if we really know what El Nino is, we are not having El Nino. What we are having is high rainfall. So, If the building was built years back, it leaks some 5 years later, do you still talk about somebody who built a building years back? What is the mitigations? Do you have checks in the airport? Of course it rained. Okay, let me now ask. Now that electricity has gone, we've lost electricity 5 times. In 1 year and 2 months, we've lost electricity, the whole country 5 times.
Yes.
Basically, in every 3 months, we have to have a national blackout. In every 3 months, we have a national blackout. The question now again I ask, do you want to tell us now, because Uhuru was the president and he left, now electricity, this is some of these things, and I'm saying some of these things affect us a lot. Because we have to, there's a prudence in management of our country. Mm-hmm. If the first time we had electricity going and we lost electricity even on a runway, was it not a problem for our country? Do we have to go 5 times? I mean, hii ni mara ya 5, hii wiki ni mara ya 5 stima kupotea Kenya mzima, mara ya 5, even in the airport. Surely, how much do we need to use to buy a backup for the airport? How much? Can't we then, that 1 billion that was lots hovering around planting trees, couldn't we even think of getting a backup for the airport? Some of these things hurt a lot. These are the things affecting our country. Again, something affecting our country is how we handle people in JKIA. The first question again, do we have to have people who are coming to pick visitors from JKIA standing out on the sun? We've traveled other countries. I've been to other African countries. Example, Oliver Tambo International Airport in South Africa.
Yes.
Visitors who are waiting to pick the passengers who are coming with the plane, they come in a certain place. Then, well, the other guys are coming in, you pick them. It's only in Kenya where you find people are standing out, looking through the glass. Is Eric coming? Eric ako kule ndani, ndio anakuja na bag yake. You're outside. Does it feel nice to make your fellow Africans look like mongrel? It's only in Kenya where people are rained on waiting for visitors who are coming from the other side. Secondly, do you have to harass people in the immigration? Did you see the bags? Prudence management. It's not bad to charge people on site, on whatever they have carried. But it is bad to make them cry. Can't we devise a nice way that we don't have people lining all over? We are shown bags. It's like a mutumba selling go down in Gikomba. Bags are waiting to be opened. And do we have privacy of opening? Or it is being opened in front of everyone. Because everyone was lining with his bag. So, ukifunguliwa mimi niko hapa naona vitu zako. Can't we find a way that these guys pass this way, and then they leave this way? By the time they leave, you have to... The way we enter through checkpoints. Unaingia, unatoa viatu, belt, unaingia hapa, tena unaangaliwa hapa, you see. But hii sifurahi. This, how will it affect our economy during December? Brother, in December is when we have people coming to our country. How? To come and visit us. And in this December, tumepandisha national parks. In this December, tumepandisha museum charges. In this December, tumepandisha mpaka arboretum. Surely, arboretum unajua mtu anaendanga tu kulala hivi kurelax. And I'm doing this kurelax tu chini ya mti. Wapumzike tu. Jua ni kali, maisha ni ngumu. How do you charge someone to go and relax tu? You are charging him double the price from 65 to 115. Kwenda tu hata 120 something. Kwenda tu kurelax chini ya mti. How? Because there's nothing much someone sees in Arboretum other than manugu tu zinacheza hapo. You know, in this December, the local tourists should have even have a reprieve because they are hurting economically, then they can run away to that Arboretum and relax. Eriko bana, sometimes you just need to go under a tree, ulale tu hapo. In this time, you need local tourists to have a reprieve. You could even have said, December holiday, 1 week, in the whole of December from 24th to tarehe mbili, all Kenyans, Arboretum, whatever, is free of charge. Go and enjoy yourselves. Do you know what Kenya would have done? Wangeingia huko in droves, wangekunywa soda, wangekula nini, watoto wangedai hizo vitu za kupakapakwa, pesa ingeonekana. Now you're even driving them away. The guys who paint kids on the streets there, who sell those sodas, they'll have mega earnings. If it were me, the president of Kenya, Eric Ragalo, His Excellency, I would have said from 22nd to tarehe mbili, all the parks for locals are free. Go and see the animals. They are your animals. Your forefathers were there living with them before they had cities and houses. You will go see them for free. That will generate economy. But at this particular moment in time, surely, you're overcharging these things. Those lions will be in those airports forever. I mean, what do you call them?
The parks forever.
Parks forever. But many Kenyans will not go. Because the charges are exemplarily not possible. Because now, at this time and age, I am expecting the government to give me a free ID, to give me a free ID should I lose one.
Yes.
Eric, we are not supposed to be charged many of these things.
Yeah, it's actually...
We are not supposed to be charged birth certificate.
Yes.
We are not supposed to be charged ID. We are not supposed to be charged to enter a hospital. You are not supposed to be charged to give birth and get your kid to school. Some of these things are government provided so long as we are paying taxes. If you add a pain on me because of a birth certificate, you add a pain on me because I'm giving birth to a lady, a Ugandan lady in Uganda, and I'm living in Uganda. So people who work in Uganda today, I'm giving an example of Uganda, don't give birth there bwana. Usizae mtoto nje hata kama ni wako. Akirudi huku, hata kama si wako, hata kama ni wako bado, usizae mtoto na bibi yako Mkenya in Uganda, mtoto apewe makaratasi ya huko. Because coming back here to look for papers, you will have to cough a lot of money. Why should that be? If we are really saying, why should you charge a dead person and already is dead? That person is dead. Death certificate ni nini unaongeza? Ni nini unaongeza ya death certificate ya mtu amekufa? Surely.
He's introducing a topic that I wanted us to jump into this morning, Eric.
I don't even want ati imereduciwa na sijui ilipunguzwa from 2000 to 1000. It should be scrapped out.
That's exactly what I want to talk about. By the way, there's just a flurry of these services that have been adjusted upwards. Even in this latest review, even when he's saying, well, it's been revised downwards, the question is, why? Let me just read for you a couple of them. And the percentages here, by the way, there are some that are even more than 5,000% in increments. Even when you're offering a service, if you're running any other business, because we're thinking the government is a business, fine, let's do business with the citizens. There is something that informs that particular percentage. Mungai, let me read for you something here.
Where was public participation?
Let me read for you something here. Amendments of a birth certificate, all right? It was set at 130 shillings. And you would imagine that the people who set this essentially saw what the service essentially would require, all right?
Amendment, yes.
It is now 1,000. Like if you look at
certificate,
if you look
1,
at this,
000.
you already have it. You just want it to be amended. If you look at this price bouquet, even late registration of a birth certificate, all right, where you're essentially going to register for the very first time.
Late
registration, right? You pay 500 shillings from 150 shillings. I'll read for you again here. Some of the things that we're looking: certificate of current birth. Something that essentially, you already have that information, by the way, you just want it right, has been moved from 50 shillings to 200 shillings. So when calculating these percentages yesterday with the production team, we looked at it and said, let's see. The least percentage here is 250% in terms of price increment. The highest, 5,000%, right? Mr. Mungai, somebody's going to ask you, you pay the government through taxes to give you a service. And Mr. Mungai, these essentially are government services. Because if you give give me that ID, I'm going to take a loan and I'm going to pay taxes. I'm going to get a job and I'm going to pay taxes.
So why do you put levy on it now?
So why are you putting levy on it?
On it. Somebody
explained to me, and I remember the very first time that I went to pick my ID, which was just 100 shillings. You know what they told me? They told me, oh, you're just paying this 100 shillings because you've come here today without a copy of your birth certificate. So you're only going to pay it here so you can actually get it. Essentially, it was for free. Mr. Mungai, it was free to get an ID.
It is. It should be.
Some of these IDs are even issued upon graduation from high school. That was the format.
Actually, the ID guys would come to high school and ask watu wangapi wamefikisha 18. Then by the time you finish school, the ID was being brought in school. Why is it a problem
today? So could you make Kenyans understand this morning? And if you look at this particular announcement, Mr. Mungai, just let me indulge you, all right? This is the first reaction that we did get when these particular services were. This is according to Braven News, who's saying this is psychological ping pong that you're playing on Kenyans. Clearly, this government either doesn't consult or is completely clueless. Let me read you another comment here. Here's the thing: that ID application drops from the initial 0 shillings to 300 shillings, while ID replacement essentially from the normal 100 shillings to 1,000 shillings. All right? Goes on to say, what you say, Wajinga Bwana, what are you doing?
And then don't forget, I want to add something. That ID is in Huduma Kenya. Now it is in Huduma. When you go to pick it, you have to pay service charge in Huduma. Again, there is another service charge. Leave alone 300. There is a standard service charge for Huduma Kenya. What is this?
Final comment on this. It's according to Nicholas. According to Nicholas Waweri.
Yeah, please load the questions.
That there's a clear indication that your cabinet meetings are like sales team meetings. Target is who brings in more taxes, 0 deliveries. You've been given targets that each ministry must increase the cost of services. My question is, does the government produce anything to warrant this obnoxious fees? That's a particular question. What do you produce? What do you produce out of that office? All right? Just Mr. Mungai.
Let me say
finally, therefore, the Lands Ministry, again, also came out just to see exactly what Nicholas Waweri is talking about this morning. The Lands Ministry also comes up. Do you know what they say? Now, for you to do a land search, all right?
From 0.
It has never been 0.
Was 500 shillings, is now 2,000 shillings. Now, if you look at the bouquet of the other documents you're supposed to pay there, in fact, the guys are going to pay 50 Gs, all right? Mr. Mungai, that clearly the target is collect, please. If you can, where you can, how you can, when you can. Is that it?
There are 2 things to your question.
Yes.
One is the increment of the charges, and secondly is the procedure used to increase those levies and charges, so to speak.
Yes.
And I must say this: I've always said that I am a member of UDA, and I am not leaving anytime soon. In fact, if anything, they will all leave, and I will be left to close the door.
Okay.
But then,
I like the way Rajan says. Okay.
I must.
Okay.
But I must say this. One, there is clearly lack of coordination in terms of how government communicates to its citizenry. Now, what you've read to me is a review, because there was an initial gazette notice revising those charges. Then when Kenyans raised questions, some government officials went ahead to say, oh, that is not what we meant. Oh, it should have gone like this. And it appears to me that even after we put Honorable Isaac Mwaura as government spokesman, it is either government officials are ignoring him or he is unable to perform and deliver as he should. Because he should, from a communication perspective, he should have seen what was likely to be the likely outcome of the Gazette notice and advise the powers that be accordingly before going to the public, as opposed to rushing to the public, then having to rewind your decision. You really look uncoordinated. And I must say that has been a huge problem, and it continues to be a big problem. And hopefully the government can sort that out. I don't know how they will sort out. So that speaks to the communication. Let me come to the procedure. Now, again, government is saying that we will revise these charges from January after having gone through public participation. Now, the Constitution is very clear. Actually, there are a lot of bills that have been passed, even in Parliament, that have been repealed by courts in Kenya, courtesy of lack of public participation. Again, from a communication perspective, someone should have advised Professor Kindiki that when you rush with this, because remember, people went to court on against the first document, and the court actually did issue an injunction and consolidated the petitions against that gazettement. So it tells you there is a, just from face value, there is a rush from every cabinet secretary to look like they are working and then to look like they, you know, they say one thing today and tomorrow they are like, oh my God, it's like we goofed on that, let's retract. And therefore, you can clearly see there is lack of coordination. And I feel certainly that in terms of public participation, the court still will intervene with regard to this. But let's speak now to the merit of the revision of the charges. And let us ask ourselves, one, why is government revising these charges? And when was the last time that these charges were actually revised?
The last part of that question should be, should they ever be revised?
Yes, yes, that's true.
Does it?
Now, we must ask ourselves several questions. One is, where is government coming from? I told you when we started this discussion that when we got into a marriage, and a marriage is between a husband and a wife, but it appears that in this house, there is another man who's come into the house and is now calling the shots on behalf of the owner of the house. And that man, I have said, is IMF. And I have also said that whether we like it or not, because of the financial situation this country finds itself in, we might have to contend with IMF for some time. And it concerns me also particularly as a Kenyan, because I feel that it's like all economic advisors of the government have no script outside IMF. And therefore, this is part of the charges that IMF has recommended so that government does not go to it into their own taxes to pay for services. And so what they are trying to do is to bring the charges up to the market value so that government, you pay for the documents at market value. Okay? And that's why I'm saying, I get concerned myself.
Can you repeat that? How is the market? What is the market value of ID?
No. Yes, I'm just saying, look, I am not government.
Yes. Okay.
So be very kind to me. I am just saying that unfortunately, and it's unfortunate, but the way things are going in this country, unfortunately, we have another man that has come into this marriage. And part of their recommendations, and they are not recommendations. You see, sometimes you imagine that they are recommending to you, but they are actually telling you to do it. They are not, for you to get your credit rating up to par, they are telling you you must raise more taxes. You must include VAT in fuel to 16%. President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been described as brilliant by Ragalo, was pushed by IMF, and you remember that time in Parliament there was a lot of acrimony.
And he refused to go to 16%.
And people had said this thing you must put 16. IMF had told him you must put 16%. What did he do?
He didn't.
Because elections were coming, he compromised and put 8%, okay, and then went ahead and put a subsidy. Now the same IMF has come and said because of the dire situation that you are in and your debt is due in the foreseeable future, you need to implement a raft of changes. You must include the what was left 8% to become 16%, and VAT must be standardized across board. And that is what the government did. And I'm saying this on set. I have told you I am an ardent UDA and government supporter. And I am telling you that it concerns me deeply that the economic advisors do not appear to have any other idea except that which IMF subscribes. And I can tell you, this is not the last of what you are seeing in terms of charges. Across all government quarters, you might be aware even in counties like we were discussing the other day with Ragalo. Kiambu Hospital has raised surgery charges from 7,000, I think now it's up to 15,000. So it tells you across board, we are going to have government increasing costs of the services they render to the public in a bid to meet the market changes. Is it a good thing? The answer is no. But also equally, we must also ask ourselves, when we are taxed, and essentially the money goes into the consolidated fund, and when we come up with an annual budget, what exactly do we budget for? Because, Simba, you might be aware that most of the institutions that present their budgets to the National Assembly, if an institution is, say, asking for 100 billion, they rarely get that. They will get, say, like 20 billion. Why? Because, in essence, the money is not enough.
Yes.
Now, if the Ministry of Interior and Coordination goes to Parliament and requests as part of their budget they need 200 billion, and the National Assembly approves for them, say 50 billion, there is a deficit of 150, correct? Now the question is this 150 had factored in loss of IDs, had factored in additional chiefs, had factored in a myriad of services offered by that ministry. So the question is this, since the money is not enough as budgeted for, then where are Kenyans likely to get those services that government is supposed to offer? And this is what I mean. When you lose an ID and you apply for an ID, if, for instance, you're charged 1,000, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, if you're charged 1,000 and you get your ID tomorrow, vis-a-vis that when it is free, and the ministry doesn't have that budget, and you have to wait for 3 months, and you need that ID to process most of your things, which is better? And what is better for a Kenyan? You have seen that Kenyans apply for a good conduct and pay for it, and when one machine breaks down, they wait for up to 8 months or 6 months to get a certificate of good conduct. And therefore, we must have a sober discussion, and I say sober, devoid of political influence, and ask ourselves as Kenyans, what is it exactly that we want? And how exactly, because what is lacking in this country, what is prevailing now, you gave Ragala a lot of time. What is prevailing now is trust deficit. It is people don't trust their government. The legitimacy that Kibaki enjoyed when he came into power in 2002 is lacking with this government. In terms of people don't trust it. And why don't people trust it? Because one, the country was divided by half. The difference in presidential vote was only 200,000. So you still have millions of people who did not support this government. So the government sort of lacks legitimacy.
Yes.
Now, because people don't trust it, even when government does something in good faith, we do not have an opportunity to have a sober discussion and ask ourselves, these changes that government seeks to implement, how are they likely to benefit us as Kenyans?
Yes.
But also equally, the government is to blame.
Yes.
Because as I said, they are very quick to implement things, and it appears like when they go for a meeting, everyone is itching to go out there and tell Kenyans what they have decided,
yes,
without actually thinking through what they are going to tell Kenyans.
That's that. I want us to go for a tiny breather.
Okay.
But once we come back, we're going to talk about this.
Okay.
That we hear you. And this is what majority of Kenyans are saying. But what justifies, the addition? But, or to what level are you supposed to add it by? Because I don't understand why you will say it is 100 today, and then tomorrow you say it's 1,000 shillings. Even, does it make business case? That's what majority of Kenyans are asking. Because you can't tell me then this morning that indeed you can remove. Now listen, there are some charges, Eric, that are moved from 200,000 to 1 million bob on a flat. Hata kama ni mkate bwana, watu wanasema iongezwe na hiyo pesa bwana. Hata mafuta iongezwe na hiyo pesa. That's what majority of Kenyans are asking this morning, is that yes, you want to add it, by how much? Once we come back here on the Morning Drift, we're going to talk about that with Regalo and also touch on other issues of the blame game that still continues in the UDA government. Who is talking? We'll tell you who.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Let's go. Let's go.
There is a biblical quotation that says, whoever gives to an orphan lends to God. Today was a great day for us. We have received and hosted a wonderful and great team from Tatua Tatu who have come to make a day brighter for these kids and for our beneficiaries.
I thank you, Tatua number 3, for coming. May God bless you, and the gates of Rafiki are ever open, and you are welcome and welcome again.
Are you a junior secondary school a college, a TVET institution or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. We're talking about the charges that have been essentially pushed to the services that the government is giving you currently. Ragalo, let me just read for you something here so that it informs the next part of our conversation. Here's the thing. This is what Kindiki said. And I will start with the most eye-opening pointer in this. It says this, that the revised charges, fee and levies are informed by the need for Kenya's self-reliance in financing the national budget. Hold on. To win the country from unsustainable debt that poses a grave threat to our sovereignty and the dignity of future generations. Note that one. I'm going to the second one as well. That the new intended charges, fees and levies have been adjusted to accommodate the views of the public. Listen, to accommodate the views of the public already received following the publication of the revoked Gazette notices. Not public participation, like Mr. Mungai called it rightly when we break, public reaction, not the views of the public, because they've not said in line with public participation. The last one. Now listen. On the particular issue of acquisition of national identity cards by previously not registered citizens, the government shall defray the costs of the revised charges, fees and levies through a waiver for indigent Kenyans who demonstrate their inability to pay. Three things here that we have to talk about. Ragalo, indulgence. When was it the responsibility of the Interior Ministry to tell us about national debt and how much money we need to repay our debt?
That's why I told you, we have people doing other people's jobs. And I gave you the example how the government is planting trees, whereas that's the work of county governments. Anyway, into your question. The public debt that Uhuru put us through was 6.7 trillion in 10 years. The public debt supposedly RUTO could put us through is 16 trillion. How? If mathematics is right, if RUTO has borrowed 1.6 trillion in 1 year, times 10, it's very simple to get to 16 trillion. He'll have shadowed Uhuru times 10. Now, why I'm laughing is Uhuru, without addition of many taxes, he would collect 17 billion a month, Kenya shillings. Ruto, with all the taxes coming in, he's collecting 150 billion, shy 20 billion of Uhuru collection a month. Kibaki, when he came in, the government of Kenya was collecting 200 billion a year. The second year, it collected 500. In fact, doubled. By the time Kibaki was leaving, we were doing 1 trillion. How much did Kibaki add? We had amendments of 2012 when we were entering 2013. I want you to check the Land Amendment Bill 2023.
Yes.
Let me help you check. The Land Amendment Bill by Ministry of Land 2023. It's here. I sent you, I don't know whether you saw it.
Yes.
The Land Amendment Bill 2023 there's an insertion of new section 54A of number 6 of 2012. What does the insertion say? I better say it's like ministers are fighting who is going to charge who more. The owner of any freehold land or property situated within the boundaries of any urban area or city shall pay an annual land levy equivalent to the land rent charged on a comparable leasehold land or property of the same size in the same zone. What is a leasehold? Section 51, they have changed the name lease public land to leasehold land. Section 51, section 34(1) of the Land Act 2012, it is amended to read, by deleting the word leased public land and substituting therefore the word leasehold land. That's very nice English. Anybody with a public land within the city. I'll give an example. When you wanataka kubomolewa mashamba kule Kayole na huko mbele. Such land, for example, you done business with it. You are tantamount to be paying levy that is commensurate with the charges by then at that time. What does that say?
In that particular area.
Yes, what does that say? Ukiwa na shamba na umefanya development ya shamba na rate hiyo shamba inasema hiyo shamba saa 50 by 100 natoka milioni 50. Now see the lease you're going to pay. Hii ndio inaitangwa kukamatiwa chini. So they are running around rioting on how to there's one day when we were starting, when you first called me to this studio.
Yes.
I told you this government is going to attack your pockets, raid your pockets.
Yeah.
When it is done raiding the pockets and there's nothing more to raid, it is going to raid the financial institutions. Yes, that's where now people will make noise because people will not be able to take loans. That is what happened in Moi time. People could not pick loans until Kibaki came in and reviewed so many things, and people started getting hope. Until such a point in time, Kenya became the most hopeful nation in Kenya. You remember the survey?
Yes.
And then people wanted to make things right. Meaning kila mtu aliokoka. Ukifanya corruption, Kenyans wanakushtaki wenyewe. You can see how hopeful we are. And the country went this way. RUTO came with hope. He held hope, not of the rich, but of the poor. The rich were scared. And that's why we are losing, because the old money ran away. They were scared because now it was like mahasala, tutawapeleka juu, pesa yenu imekuliwa na wadosi. Wadosi ndio, you remember the word wadosi was used 1,000 times. Yeah. Now wadosi held their money and so now the old money stopped circulating. And that is how we are slumping. The hope of one united Kenya was different. There was a hope of the people who are down against the people who are up. The people who are up were even fearing their houses in Keren, Kitisuru and elsewhere. Utakuta jamaa ameingia amesema huku ni kwetu. You remember those stories started. So the rich started holding back. Their hope left. And that's why the other day we lost 1,000 and something companies. I'll call them company because they're investors in the BOS, Nairobi Stock Exchange, which was amounted to 100 billion and something. So what we are going through here, we want to cover up the deficits. But the pilferages is more. Because if we are looking for money to cover the deficit of $100 billion that has gone out of Kenya by taxing Kenyans to cover the deficit. But remember, you're taxing Kenya on Kenya shillings to cover the deficit of dollars. Okay. Then how much tax will you tax them? So now the only thing we can do, chukua hii kitu eka kando. Kenyans, we need to talk. Nisameheni. Tulifanya makosa. Sasa tusiaidianeni tujenge Kenya yetu. Mnataka aje? Kenyans will tell you.
Ragalo, here's the thing. Again, gentlemen, I have to raise your attention to this. So, you know, we keep on looking at this particular announcement, and then you say, oh, there's going to be public participation. Mungai.
I forgot, before you give it to Mungai one second, I forgot on that.
Yes.
When we did the Treasury bill, which is hurting us today, there was public participation.
Yes.
Kenya Manufacturers, Society of Manufacturers, we're forgetting the real name, the way it is.
Kenya
Association of Manufacturers, and many other organizations went and said, this thing is not good. We need to review it as in totality. Or rather, even if it is late, it's not doomed. We can still do, because there's never a vacuum in the government, and that was what the government was. So we can still do with the Uhuru thing until December. Then we have this in after good review. And remember, these are Kenyans now telling you. That's why I said Kenya will tell you. You refuse to listen to them. And without amendments, because you cannot amend a bill. If you amend a comma, you remove everything.
Essentially change everything.
That's why this bill 2012 is being amended in totality. Because one chapter, one phrase goes to affect the other. So now we refused because we were in a hurry to please someone. Now, in totality, it came in. Who tells you that public participation will be listened to, if at all, that one that was more acrimonious? And we sat down and people listened, the government listened. They refused to budge. Other than budging, they even added some things in it. Towards Parliament, they added around 4 chapters to it. So who tells you it will change? So we don't need public participation. Wafanye vile wanataka, tunangojea miaka 4. We are tired. Because nobody will listen anyway.
Here's the thing. Help us understand this English. Again, I mean, you know, we dig deep into these statements that are coming from the ministry, because the ministry, the statements that have gone through an entire department before.
Hopefully,
isn't it? Hopefully. I like the way you say hopefully.
No,
okay.
It's true.
Yes. Here's the thing, that this will take effect as of January 1st, 2024. But then they continue like this. The State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services has been directed to conduct and complete public participation as soon as possible. Doesn't it there? Now listen to that wording. But in any case, not later than December 10th, 2023.
When is December 10th?
But in any case. You see that particular point? But in any case.
Yes.
What does it mean, Mr. Mugai?
It's simple. You see, for those of us who have studied communication, language, the way you express yourself, informs us of the thinking behind what you're saying. The use of the words "in any case" should tell you that the writers of the statement had a discussion and they agreed to the outcome of the discussion.
Right there.
And they also agreed that in any case, whatsoever, be it as it may,
however,
no, there is no however. It can only be therefore.
Yes, therefore.
It can only be therefore. We shall, and the keyword is shall. We shall implement this raft of changes
on January 1st, 2024. That's it.
And I have told you that the increment of these charges or levies is not the last that we are seeing.
Yeah.
There will be many to come. And sometimes, you know, Simba, sometimes I tell myself when I'm alone,
yes,
I think, okay, maybe one day, God willing, I hope to be a very successful politician. But sometimes I tell myself, maybe what I should do, I should go back to school, study economics, maybe get a PhD in economics, and go look for a job with IMF. You know why? Because when you work with IMF or when you are an IMF officer, you're more powerful than a president. So I ask myself, why would I waste time moving all over the country looking for votes, and yet a fellow will come with a raft of measures and read me the Riot Act and tell me,
yes,
this is the script to follow: plant trees, increase levies, collect more tax, increase tax. This one, go and implement. And I ask myself, isn't it better if I study economics and then go, especially in an African context? Because this is not a problem with Kenya, by the way, alone.
Yes.
This is you saw the backlash that Museveni faced when he went against members of the alphabet.
Yes.
And even World Bank denied him loans. So it tells you that it has nothing to do with the economy. Because if it has something, it's true they are willing to help to do with the economy. What does two men sleeping with each other have to do with an economy? That you're denying an economy money because members of the alphabet are turning the alphabets against each other. What does that have to do with the economy? So it tells me, and that's why I insist on this show.
Yes.
It concerns me as a supporter of this government,
yes,
that the economic advisors do not appear to have another script,
yes,
except that which is read to them by IMF.
yes.
And I have also said I am aware and I am cognizant that the hole which the previous regime left uncovered is what has opened the door towards IMF coming into the country and dominating our public discourse and our economics. But I was just hoping, you know, sometimes you have a ray of hope that yes, we have visionary leadership that says, okay, this is what IMF is prescribing, but additionally, we could do this for our people. But it appears to me, and I saw a cabinet secretary on TV the other day, and he said that according to IMF's marking scheme, we are really doing well. And you know why also that concerns me is because it tells me that whether we like it or not, and I'll tell you for a fact, IMF will collect whether we follow their script or whether we don't. They will collect. Yes. That is the rule. Whether when we follow their script, it works, well and good. If we follow their script and it backfires, because now they are trying even new theories on us, and that's why I'm saying sometimes I wonder, do I really need to campaign in the whole country to become a president? And then a Muzungu somewhere just shows up and says, look, forget everything else you told the people, get this, go and implement this. And then you see on TV, when you look at even the senior economic advisor's tweets, every time he tweets, this guy is telling you that, look, you are sick, you are in ICU, and I'm the doctor.
Yes.
Okay? Now he's telling you, even though I am the doctor, what I am injecting in you will kill you. There are no guarantee, you will die. 90%.
There is no guarantee you're going to survive.
There is no guarantee you will die.
So what is this saying?
Now I am asking myself, then why did I need to go to the hospital if the outcome was death? I could have stayed at home, or we could have said we don't need a government. Let this thing run on autopilot. After all, we are going to die. Because the reason we hired you as an advisor is to change the course. To say, okay, this trajectory is not right.
Let's change the course.
Let's change the course.
And take the
and when we take this course, there is a likelihood, a high likelihood that things will turn out well. And then because you need to infuse optimism into the market, you use a language that allows and rallies the people and the investors to move with you. But when the chief surgeon enters the surgeon room, and when you are in a coma, you can hear them saying, you know, this fellow is going to die anyway, let's kill him. Because it is better when he dies very quickly. then what hope do you have left as a country? And if it were, in my opinion, and I know this sometimes brings me a lot of backlash, the first thing the president should do to infuse hope into the economy is to fire the economic advisors unceremoniously. Just fire them. It is better when they are tweeting and saying the economy is dead, but they are not your advisors. Because then we can brand them and say, you know, those ones have been bought by opposition or they have, you know, we can label them. But now these people are telling you the economy is going to die and they're your advisors.
And taking salary from you.
And taking salary from Kenyans.
He's happy to let them do
In fact, when David D entered the office, the first thing he said is that this office has old cars. So he went ahead to purchase new vehicles. Why do you need a good car for an economy that's going to die? Where are you, if the economy dies, we have poor roads, where are you going to be driving the good car that you want to purchase for your office if all you prophesy from morning to evening is death and gloom? And therefore, is to say this on the issue of those charges.
Yes.
It's not the last we are seeing of them. The IMF has a script. Kenyans, if your seatbelt is not working, brace yourself.
Yes.
Look for a person who can do a nice seatbelt.
Yes.
And you know it's good to be open with each other. Mudavadi tries to tell us we are in this for the next 3 years.
Yes.
But I foresee it might take longer.
Sure.
I foresee it might take longer because our so-called, let me use the word, our so-called economic advisors
are not
helping the president. Their work is to put good suits. When there is a president in the country, they get photo ops. They bombard us with them on social media of how they are eating, of how now they have learned to use a fork and a knife, and they don't really advise the president on how best we can redeem this economy.
If I add something...
you're going to add on it,
yes.
because we only have 8 minutes for this conversation. I want you to take your 5 minutes, and we're going to give Mungai 3 minutes to clear. There's a question that I keep on asking then, Ragalo. If indeed this is not the last that we're saying, just like Mr. Mungai is saying, and we've seen majority of the ministries come in. And remember a man called Moses Kuria who said, well, majority of these services, you got to pay for them. Now, we've seen exactly what is manifesting from that particular statement. Here's the thing, and I asked this question yesterday with the panel that we had here. If indeed majority of Kenyans are disgruntled with what the government is doing, that the people who would have gotten these services for free, the so-called hustlers, mamambogas that this government came in on the back of the election, are the ones that will not afford these services now, are we likely, and I'm saying that with a pinch of salt because of the opinions that I got yesterday, are we likely for the very first time in our Kenyan politics to see a first-term president?
We are. We are going to have a first-term president. That's definite.
No, that's
because people vote hope. People don't vote with their head.
Yes.
People vote with their emotions.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be negative, so that he has already said we are not, but I'm just trying to make it right. I think he thought I'm coming fighting. People buy hope. Why did RUTO came in?
Yes.
Not that he was very good, but he sold hope.
Does it?
The most hopeful community was not even the Kalenjin, where he comes from, was the Mount Kenya. Trust me, we are from there. They were the most hopeful because they thought that their man, who was now their tribesman, was not doing well to help them. And this guy was selling what they need to hear. So the hope is waning so fast. And if you want to know, you can see what happened to Githurai when some station went to Githurai and were telling them they are going to send greetings to the president. You saw what Githurai people did. They say they don't want. Deputy, they don't want. To Uhuru Kenyatta, they yelled yes. That is the same community that was saying no, we don't need him. So, wherever you go, you find the president is talking to people. People are telling him mafuta, 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 mafuta. You understand? Hope is waning. So those are the people who you sold hope on. You told them petrol will come down. You bring them piki that can only do 60 kilometers, then you recharge again. Hope is going. And I love the way my brother is saying, he's talking about a script. The script is running. The script will continue. When Moi was a president, the script said we need to give people golden handshakes so that we release the government from a lot of expenditure.
Yes.
And the former poster was to be divided to poster and telecom. That was how the script was written. And sure enough, telecom was relinquished from poster because we used to call it post and telecommunication. Mm-hmm. Then we had poster and you had telecom. Those guys who were working there, majority at 40, 30, 50, were given golden handshake. We had Kenya Power and Lighting Company. By that time it was doing everything. Then we had a division between Kenya Power and Kengen. So many of these departments were divided. But people lost a lot of jobs. That economy is going to revive. Did it? It did not revive. Towards 2002 election, the hope was gone. Uhuru had done no mistake at all. Eric can tell you. Uhuru was very new. In fact, those guys who were running against Uhuru had too much mistakes. Mm-hmm. Uhuru was very new. He had nothing at all. We only knew Uhuru as the son of first president. If you're told anything about him, utamtetea. But Uhuru lost miserably. To an extent, he even lost an MP seat in Gatundu South. That's how much hope was gone. If Uhuru was to lose today, he would lose by 3 million votes, because then he lost by 1 million in 2002, 20-something years ago. You can imagine, those are 2 census, and you know how Kenyans can multiply. From the time we were up to now, we are around 50, going 60. So now, Ruto may not do wrong. He may be meaning well. But the script he's reading, and from the people who are giving him a script, they're making him lose the people. And hope is gone. It took Ruto more than 4 years to sell hope. Immediately they won the second term, he relinquished himself from Uhuru, and he started selling hope. He sold hope for 5 years. Bro, how will he recapture the hope the remaining 2 years?
Yes.
Because it's not remaining 4 years, bro. It's remaining 2 years. Because the last year is usually the campaign and election. And election is not in December. It is in September, August. So how can he change and bring hope in 2 years? It's going to be a while of that problem. So you ask me a question, I give you an answer. Ruto will go home.
Here's the thing. Okay, you have 2 minutes.
I've said it calmly.
On the back of this, I mean, even when your members of parliament are advising you not to let fuel prices run away in the country, they're fearing. They say, well, the ground is getting hostile. Even him, when he's in charge, he's saying, maybe, guys, I know I promise a lot, but some of these promises take longer. Is he about to be a one-term president based on how hard the cost of living now is hitting majority of Kenyans?
No, he will not be a one-term president, for the simple reason that we as Kenyans, when it comes to elections, we do not remember any economic values or anything of that sort. And I must say that it is true times are hard and the president is trying his level best, but I must also say that it takes a lot of time to fill up the hole that this government found themselves in. And I must say that over and above filling that hole, the government must find a way, and that is why I keep on prescribing firing of that team.
Yes.
The government, because you see, when Kibaki came into power, one of the things that we did was to set a vision for this country. And what vision did we set? 2030. Who are the drivers of that vision? The likes of James Mwangi, titans of industry.
Naikuni.
Yes. And the rest. So what we need, you see, I respect D, but I feel like he's a man full of rhetoric but little on substance. I do not know where that fellow has ever run anything successfully.
In Rwanda, what happened to him in Rwanda?
No, I even don't want to go there, but I'm just wondering, has he ever run anything? Because what we are doing is doing guinea pig stuff on a country that is affecting livelihoods.
That's it.
My dear President, I know it's difficult, and I support this government. But if it is possible, and where possible, please listen to us.
Yes.
Fire that economic advisory team.
I want to advise the president. 1 second.
What's stepping out? Yes.
The president, you have the communication team led by Mwaura. He's your principal mcheshi. He should be the one communicating and selling hope, even when there is no hope. It is now 3 weeks to 1 month. What has he said? Nothing. Eric is here defending what Mwaura should be defending. I mean, can't you give, sometimes, and then, President, you made a mistake.
Yes.
Kibaki gave us a government spokesman who was not a politician.
In 15 seconds. Yes.
Uhuru gave us a government spokesman, Mutua, from nowhere in a university. He became a politician later. You pick a politician to be a government spokesman who wants to run as an MP in a place where hope is lowering. He will not talk those things so that he doesn't lose votes. I'm telling you for free. Eric is here. Give him a job. Me, I don't want. Me, I can't be your government spokesman. Yes.
No, please no.
Please kindly. Producer, please.
My director is killing us. We gotta step out. Guess what? Here's the thing. I will end with this quote. But in any case, listen. But in any case, by December 10th, 2023, it's a rubber stamp. In any case. Guess what, guys? I will see you tomorrow for another edition. Thank you very much. Check us online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am Kiage Simba. Goodbye.